All right, number 2, we're given a graph. This graph is of f, and it's important to note that the questions are about g, right? G is the integral from 2 to x of f of t dt. A good strategy on a problem like this is just to right off the bat write down what the derivative of g is, because that's f of x. That concept we're going to use probably in most, if not all, parts of this question. All right. A says, does g have a relative max, relative min, or neither at x equals 10? If I did a little sign analysis at 10 of g prime, which again is f, I should notice that it goes from negative to 0 to negative, right? Because it's below the x-axis, then it's 0, then it's below the x-axis. And so while the slope is 0, it turns out to be neither a max or min. So the answer is neither. What you need to do for a thorough answer, a justification, is to put this sign analysis into words. So a good way to put it would be I would just actually say g prime goes from negative to 0 to negative. Okay. Another way you could say it is that the derivative of g is negative for x less than 10, negative after 10. All right, letter B. Do we have an inflection point at x equals 4? A point of inflection is going to happen when the second derivative of g changes sign. So that's what I'm looking for. When does the second derivative of g change sign? Well, from our relationship we've already established, the second derivative of g is going to be the first derivative of f. So the question is, when does f prime change sign? Oops. Okay, and so I'm basically looking at this graph and looking for changes in the slope of f. So I pretty clearly got a change in slope at 0, a change in slope at 2, a change in slope at 4, a change in slope at 8, and another change in slope at 10. These are all going to be points of inflection. 4 is the one we're looking for. The reason why is because the second derivative of g, which is the first derivative of f, changes sign. All right, letter C asks us to find the absolute minimum of g on the interval from negative 4 to 12. So if you remember, for absolute max min questions, we want to list the candidates. And the candidates are the endpoints and the critical numbers. Okay. And the critical numbers are anywhere where g prime, which is f, equals 0. All right. So my endpoints are negative 4 and 12, and then I also have negative 2, 2, 6, and 10 as critical numbers, right? Those are places where the derivative equals 0, derivative of g equals 0. All right, so let's think about doing what g of x is for each one of these. I'm going to start with 2 because that's the easiest. If I start at 2 and stop at 2 and do an integral, I'm going to get 0. So I know that g of 2 is 0. G of 6 is going to be the area of this triangle, right? So that's a 4 by 4 triangle. Its area is going to be 8. If I do g of 10, I'm going to go from 2 to 10, and notice that this area and this area are going to cancel each other out. One's positive and one's negative, so that's back to 0 again. And then when I get to 12, I'm going to have an integral that's negative, and so this is a 2 by 4 triangle. That's going to be negative 4. All right, when I do these first two, take note I'm integrating from 2 backwards. So this triangle has an area of 8, but I'm going backwards, so that's going to be negative 8. And then this part, since I'm going backwards, is going to be a double negative. And so this has an area of 4, but I'm actually going to be adding at that point. So this is going to be negative 4. Right? Your justification is really finding all of these values and concluding what your max and min are. So negative 8 is your minimum, and positive 8 is your maximum. All right, final question. When is g of x less than 0? So if I go back to the definition of g of x, which is the integral from 2 to x of f of t, we already discussed a lot of this in the last problem. G of 2 is 0. After that, it's positive, 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 positive. At that point, I start to subtract, but I'm going back down to 0. And so really the only time in the forwards direction where g of x is less than 0 is going to be from 10 to 12. When I'm going backwards, I start off negative right off the bat, and so this entire interval is going to be negative. Here I do start to add, but this area doesn't overcome this area, and so that's going to be the entire interval from negative 4 up until 2. There's no justification required for this one, you just have to kind of give the answer.